They say history is written by the victors. But what if the true victors were never even human? For thousands of years, ancient tablets, myths, and forbidden texts have whispered about a mysterious race of beings called the Anunnaki, gods from the stars who supposedly came to Earth, ruled over humanity, and then vanished. But what if they never really left? What if their blood still flows through certain families, certain elites, and even through people walking past you every single day? Before we dive into this, make sure you hit like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear has been suppressed for centuries, and the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. The story of the Anunnaki begins in Mesopotamia, in the cradle of civilization, more than 6,000 years ago. The Sumerians, one of the first known advanced civilizations on Earth, left behind cuneiform tablets describing beings who came from the heavens, not metaphorically, but literally. These beings were called Anunnaki, which translates roughly as those who came from the sky. They were said to have descended from a distant planet, one Sumerian texts called Nibiru, and they taught humanity agriculture, astronomy, writing, mathematics, everything that turned hunter-gatherers into builders of cities. But here's where it gets even stranger. The tablets don't just describe the Anunnaki as gods, they describe them as physical, flesh and blood beings. They supposedly walked among humans, ruled over them like kings, and even interbred with them. Could it be that some of today's most powerful bloodlines, kings, queens, presidents, tech billionaires, are descendants of these ancient visitors? Let's trace the timeline. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest surviving stories in human history, tells of a king who was 2/3 god and 1/3 man. 2/3 god, how do you even measure that? The text suggests a literal genetic heritage, that Gilgamesh himself may have been part Anunnaki. And if Gilgamesh was real, and archaeologists have found evidence of a historical figure who matches his description, then the royal bloodlines of Mesopotamia may have been seeded with something nan-human. Now think about how royal families today still intermarry to preserve their pure bloodlines, from the British monarchy to the ancient dynasties of Europe. They have guarded their lineage with almost obsessive care. Is this just tradition, or an instinct to protect something far more ancient, something that stretches back to the first kings appointed by the Anunnaki themselves? Mainstream scholars will tell you the Anunnaki are just myth. But the problem is, there are too many coincidences. Nearly every culture on Earth has stories of sky gods who descended from the heavens, taught humans civilization, and then promised to return. The Mayans spoke of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, who came from the sky and taught them astronomy. The Dogon tribe of Mali knew about Sirius B, an invisible star to the naked eye thousands of years before modern telescopes could see it. How were they all just imagining the same story, across thousands of miles and thousands of years, with no contact? Or were they remembering the same visitors, the same and if they did promise to return, what if they already have? In 1947, the Roswell incident sparked America's obsession with UFOs. But what the public didn't know was that some government insiders allegedly believed these weren't just extraterrestrials, they were the same gods from ancient times, coming back. Project Blue Book, Majestic 12, and secret military programs all investigated this possibility. And the deeper you dig into declassified documents, the more you see a disturbing pattern. High-ranking officials talking about non-human entities with an interest in human genetics. Could this explain the countless abduction stories where witnesses describe medical experiments and DNA extraction? What if they aren't here to conquer us? What if they're here to monitor their descendants? Consider this. In 2003, scientists completed the Human Genome Project, mapping every gene in the human body. But a small percentage of our DNA, sometimes called junk DNA, remains a mystery. Some geneticists have admitted off record that certain segments of human DNA look almost engineered. What if that's the Anunnaki signature, the genetic fingerprint of our creators? Now let's talk about power. For centuries, secret societies like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati have been accused of preserving forbidden ancient knowledge. Many of their symbols, the winged disc, the all-seeing eye, the serpent, have uncanny similarities to Sumerian glyphs associated with the Anunnaki. Is it possible that these groups are not just worshipping the Anunnaki, but are actively preserving their bloodlines and preparing the world for their eventual return? And here's where it gets terrifying. What if their return is not in the distant future but now? Some researchers point to the rapid acceleration of technology over the last 100 years as evidence of outside intervention. We went from riding horses to landing on the moon in less than 7 decades. Microchips, fiber optics, genetic engineering, all exploding in such a short period of time. Could it be that their descendants, still among us, have been guiding human progress to prepare for something big? And what about those who seem to have almost supernatural levels of influence? The billionaires shaping entire economies, the politicians who seem untouchable, the families whose power never seems to fade. Could their advantage be more than just money? Could it be bloodline? This isn't just a question of curiosity anymore. If the Anunnaki are real and their descendants are among us, it means that human history is not just human history. It means that we may have been participants in someone else's grand experiment, and that experiment might not be over. The more we look, the more patterns emerge, strange symbols at ancient sites lining up perfectly with star systems, genetic anomalies in certain populations, and whispers of a hidden hand guiding global events. Coincidence or coordination? Ask yourself, why do so many governments suddenly admit UFOs are real but never fully explain what they are? Why are billionaires racing to leave Earth and colonize Mars? Why is genetic technology advancing faster than ever before? What if they know something we don't? Because if the descendants of the Anunnaki really are among us, walking beside us, ruling over us, then the biggest question is not who they are, but what they want. And if history tells us anything, it's that when the gods return, nothing stays the same. So watch carefully. Look at who holds the power, who never seems to fall, who shapes your world without ever being elected. The blood of the Anunnaki might just be beating through their veins, and maybe, just maybe, through yours.